Hi everyone, welcome you all. So in the today's video, I'm going to show you how we can create a Playwright test, and also we'll see how we can run Playwright test. So the first thing is in Playwright, we can create tests in two different ways. And the first approach is by using CodeGen plugin, which is provided by Playwright and which is also called test generator. And we can automatically record all the steps. And the second approach is by writing our own script. So these are the two different approaches by using code generator without using code generator. So we have two approaches we have in a Playwright to generate a code. So first thing we will see how can we write our own script without using code generator and how can run the test. Okay, so that we are going to see in the video. So for that, what we need to do is let us go to the VS Code editor. And we already created this project in the previous video. So Playwright automation project. And we also we already installed Playwright on this particular project. And this is a folder structure. So this folder contains all the node modules, whatever is required for Playwright test, all the modules are created. And you can see test is a folder. So in this, the sample test is got created. So this is a demo. For demo purpose, they have given example spec.js. So this simple test they have given. And even in test examples also, they have given one more test, which is basically when advanced test they have given for example. So we will write our own test in the Playwright. So for that, what we need to do is inside the test folder. So all the tests we have to create inside the test folder. So the first thing is we need to create our own test. So for that, we need to create a new file. So right click on the test, or you can select the test and you can click on this icon and new file, and we are going to create a new file. So all the test files should be having extension is spec.js. The file name can be anything, but the extension of the file should be spec.js. Okay. So here I'm creating my first test. So my test is I want to verify the home page. Let's say I will launch my application and then I will verify something on the web page like title is correct or not, or the URL is correct or not. I can verify. So simply I'm creating a new test. My test name is homepage test dot spec.js. So this is how we need to create a new file under test folder. So homepage test.spec.js. In this, I'm going to create some test. So before that, let me show you the application, what I'm going to automate. Fine. So if you go to this application, this is demoblaze.com. So this is a home page. Now, as soon as you launch my application on the browser, I want to verify the title of the page is store or not. You can see this is the title of the page. And even if you right click on the page inspect, and you can see the title on the header tag. So here you can see the title. So I want to verify the title is exactly the title is giving correctly or not. And the second thing is I want to verify this URL is also correctly opened or not. So these are the two tests I want to do as part of my file. So for that, what you need to do is as soon as you created a new file, the first thing is we need to import required modules. So for our testing. Okay, so if I look at the project here, so there is a node modules are automatically created. So in this, you can see @Playwright. Inside this, there are so many modules you can see. So we need to import this Playwright test module in our file, and then we will able to access all the functions and fixtures and so on. So for that, we need to first import it. To import, we have to use one function called require, and this comes from Node.js. And here we need to specify which module you want to import. So here the module is what? The module name is @Playwright/test. So this particular module we have to import. So in this module, again, there are so many packages are there. If I look at here, Playwright/test. So there are so many packages are there in this. So again, in this package, we don't need all the packages. We need only two packages, and they are expect and test. So for that, what we need to do is we need to in the curly braces, we need to write. So what are the packages we have to import? Test is one package we required for writing the test, Playwright test. Other one is to add validations. We need one more package called expect. So these are the two things we need to get from this require. So here you can simply say equal to. Okay, and this test and expect should be constant. You can use a let, or you can use where, or you can use constant. Some variable is required. So what exactly we are doing in the first step? So we are importing the module Playwright/test from this particular module. We have to get test and expert. So these are the two packages we require to create our Playwright test. So test is required to create our test. Expert is required to add validations for the test. And those two are available inside at the rate Playwright/test. Okay. And once imported this, now we can start writing our test. So how to start writing our test? So to start writing our test, we need to use something called test block. So we need to write something called test block. So in this, we need to write some anonymous function and two parameters we need to pass. So first parameter is what? The title of the test. So you can provide some name to the test. So here I'm providing something called, let's say, home page. And here, and the second parameter, comma, second value should be anonymous function we need to pass. So anonymous function in the sense, open bracket and arrow function. So this is called anonymous function. So this is the block first we need to create whenever you want to create a test in the Playwright. Okay, and one more important thing. So when you create this block, so this particular anonymous function, so whatever anonymous function we created, so this anonymous function will use some fixture which is provided in Playwright. So in the Playwright, whenever you're automating any application, the pages will be represented with the fixture that is called page. So this fixture we have to pass inside the anonymous function. And this we need to keep inside the curly braces. Okay, this is the mandatory. So whenever you create an anonymous function, we have to pass a fixture called page. So what is this fixture means? Which contains so many functions, and through them we can automate web application. Suppose when you're interacting with some element, or if you want to click on element, or if you want to get the text from the page, or if you want to check some element is present on the page or not, or if you want to launch your web page. So all these commands are available in page. That is a fixture which is available in Playwright. Okay, so this is mandatorily required. That is one thing. And inside the function, so now we pass this page, right? So inside the test function. And the second thing is what? By using this page fixture, we have to access all the commands, right? Suppose I want to launch my application in the browser. So for that, what you can do is take this page dot. So in this page fixture, we can access all the methods. So for now, I'm using one method called goto. And this method will be used to open application URL on the browser. And here we need to pass the application URL. So I'm just passing the URL of application in the goto method. Okay, goto method. So this particular command will open this URL on the browser. Okay, this particular command will open the URL on the browser. And one more important thing we need to understand. So whenever you are referring this particular fixture page, right? So in front of this page or in front of this function, we need to specify something called async. Okay, async should be specified. Async, and before the bracket, before the function start, async we have to specify. Similarly, whenever you are accessing a method from the page fixture, we have to specify something called await. So this is mandatorily required. Okay, so whenever you are writing the test block, in the anonymous function, we have to pass page fixture in the curly brace. And before that function, we need to write one keyword called async. And similarly, whenever you are accessing a method from the page, we have to specify something called await. So these two keywords will keep on continue throughout our automation test. But why this we have to specify? Async and await. So basically, JavaScript is asynchronized programming language. JavaScript is a asynchronized programming language. So what does it mean? Suppose we have written some steps in our automation. Let's say I have written 10 steps. So normally how execution will happen? So line by line, right? Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, and so on. But in asynchronous programming languages, what happens is, so the execution will happen asynchronously. That means it will not go execution step by step. That means if you want to execute one step, right? So suppose that step is based on the or depends on the previous step, right? So normally in asynchronous programming languages, what happens? The steps will be executed asynchronously. It will not depend on the previous step. So that is the behavior of asynchronous programming languages. Okay, so normally what happens is you have multiple lines of code like this. So if you want to execute this particular step, the first step should be completed and then you need to go with the next step. And this should be completed and then you need to go with the next step, right? But in JavaScript, what happens is these steps will executed asynchronously. That means parallelly, all the steps will be executed. So no step is depends on any other step. But in our automation, first we need to execute one step and then only we can continue with the next step, because every step is depends on the previous step. Okay, to make it happen, we have to handle something called promise. JavaScript promise. So what is JavaScript promise? So here, async keyword we have used. What does that mean? Async keyword says this is we have to use before the function, right? It makes the function return a promise. So this async keyword will make the function return a promise. And await keyword makes the function wait for the promise. So what does it mean? The async keyword will make the function return a promise, and await keyword will make the function wait for the promise. What does it mean? This particular statement, page.goTo statement, will wait till the page is loaded. So once the page is loaded, then only the next step will be continued. That means what? Async keyword will make sure the function will return the promise, and await keyword will make sure it will wait for the promise. So once the promise completed, that means once the page is loaded, then page.goTo command works. Okay, so every command in the page will work after loading the page. So we are going to handle this promise by using async and await keywords. So for that reason, whenever you are using this page, before that as anonymous function, you have to specify async keyword. And whenever you're accessing the commands or method from the page, you have to specify await in front of this function. Okay, these things will keep continue in your Playwright automation test scripts, because JavaScript is a asynchronized language. So to make it synchronized, we have to use these two keywords. Okay, so now, so by using this command page.goTo, so which will launch our application on the page. Now, what is my test here? I want to do two different tests. So one is I want to verify the title of the web page, and also I want to verify the URL of the web page is correct or not. Okay, so how to capture the title of the web page? So to capture the web page title, so again, we have one method in the page object. We can say page.title, simple, page.title. So this function or this method will return the title of the web page. I can store in a web variable. I can say page title. And the variable type should be, you can specify where, or you can specify let, or you can specify const, whatever you want. In the JavaScript, these are the three different ways we can define the variable. So const means what? That value is not changing. The value is constant. So if you want to capture the title of the web page, we can use page.title. So that will return the title of the web page. And if you want to print the title, simply you can use console.log, and here simple, you can print page title is, and here concatenate with, or you can say simple comma and page title. Okay, so like this we can capture the title, but how we can validate whether the title is correct or not? So we need to add some validation point by using expect. So far we have used only test here. So now we need to use expect to add some validation. So this is not mandatory to capture the page title, because we want to do validation, just not printing the title, right? So to apply the validation, we have to use something called expect. So expect is a function. Inside this, we need to pass page, and that page URL we have to validate, right? So for that, we have another function called to have URL. And what is the URL we are expecting, or what is the title if you are expecting, if you want to verify the title, dot to have title. Similarly, if you want to verify the URL, to have URL. So multiple methods are available in the page that we can access. So to have title, and in this we can specify what is the title we are expecting. So my title I'm expecting is called store. So this is my title I'm going to expect. So this is exactly validation point. So what exactly we have done? We have just launched our web application and capture the title, and just we have printed the title. This is optional. This is mandatorily not required. It just, if you want to know the title, you can just capture and print. But this is the validation point. Expect the page to have title store. Okay. And after that, if you want to close my page, you can say page dot close. You can just access, you can just call close function from the page dot close. So all the functions, all the methods are available in the page itself. Okay. So this is simple script we can create like this. Okay. And one important I told you at the beginning. So whenever you're referring this page at the anonymous function, we need to use async so that it will make sure this will return the promise. And await is a keyword which will make sure it is waiting for the promise. So whenever you're referring the methods or functions from the page, you have to use await keyword. So here also it is applicable. For expect also it is applicable. And here the page is also it is applicable. So in every statement, this await is applicable so that it will make sure that particular function is waiting for the promise to complete. Okay. So this is how simply we can create Playwright test. So now how we can, so we have verified only title, right? So if you want to verify the URL, you can still verify the URL. So to verify the URL, you can say expect and page dot to have, so to have URL. And that URL we can specify in the double quotation. So whatever we have sent this URL, the same URL I'm expecting here. And another thing, so whenever again you are using expect page, we have to use something called await. Right? So now we have done two validations. As soon as you launch your web page, we are just verifying the title and we are verifying the URL of the current page. And finally, we are closing the browser. So in every statement, if I look at here, await keyword should be used before the function. It will make sure the promise, it will wait for the promise to complete. Means it will wait for the page to complete further actions. Okay. And again, here we are directly verifying the current URL of the web page. But if you want to capture and if you want to print in the console, so just like a page title we capture, right? Similarly, if you want to capture the URL from the web page, simply from the page, you can capture it. You can say page dot URL. Okay, so simply you can say page URL, page dot URL, simply small case characters. So please URL. So this will return the URL of the page. So you can say page URL. I'm storing in the variable called page URL, and this is const variable. Okay, so if you want to just print this page URL, you can write one more console.log, console.log, and here you can specify the page URL, page URL is comma page URL. So this is a variable in the JavaScript. Okay, so simple script we have created. What we have done is we have just opened application URL, capture the title and printed in the console window, and then I have done validation on the title, and then we captured the URL. So this is not page transition, it is simple page dot URL, and which will return the page URL, and then we are just printing it, and after that we are validating the page URL, and finally we are closing the page. So you need to make sure before writing the anonymous function, we need to use async, and before accessing all the methods from the page, we have to use await. Okay, so now let us try to execute this particular code. So to execute this Playwright test, what we can do is we need to just go to terminal. Let me save the file and open the terminal, new terminal. In the new terminal, we have to execute one command called npx playwright and test. So when I execute this command, npx playwright test, by default, this will execute all the tests which are present inside the test folder. So currently I have another test also, example.spec.js, right? So both the tests will be executed. So let me try to execute here when I press enter. So by default, all the tests will be executed. See this? It is basically executed in the headed mode. So by headless mode, by default, Playwright will execute all the tests in the headless mode. So what it is saying, total in 9 passed. So 9 means one test we have created our own, and rest of the 8 tests are part of the previous one, example.spec.js, and also it is executed in multiple browsers. Parallel it is executed. So totally 9. Okay. So if you want to see the report, you can see the report here. So by default, report will be generated. If you want to see the report, you can just execute this command. It will automatically show up the reports. I can say npx playwright show -report. So when you execute this command, this will automatically opens the report. Now you can see this is the report which is created. So all the tests are executed in all the browsers. You can see example.spec.js, you can see. So these are the tests. They are already there in the example.spec.js, and they are executed in the Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. And similarly, homepage test.spec.js, this we have created. And homepage test is executed on 3 different browsers, Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. Okay. So this is how we can simply create a test and we can execute. So by default, so this particular command, when I say control C, it will exit from the command. So when I execute this command, npx playwright show report, so this will give you the report. And when I execute npx playwright test, this will automatically execute all the tests which are part of this test folder, right? So, but I want to execute my own test. I don't want to execute all the tests. I just want to execute only homepage test.spec.js. So simply what you can do is you can specify the name, npx playwright test, and here you can specify the name of the test, whichever you want to execute. Homepage test.spec.js, homepage test.spec.js. So this time it will execute only the test which we have created. So now we have created, it is executing one test, but on 3 browsers it is executing. If I look at here, so 3 got passed. So what is 3? Because we have written only one test, right? But how come it is 3 executed? Means same test is executed on 3 different browsers, Chromium, WebKit, and Firefox, right? So if you want to look at the report once again, you can just execute this command, npx playwright show report, and that will give you the report. Now you can see the same test is got executed on Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. Okay. And suppose I don't want to execute on all browsers. I want to execute only on the Chromium browser, or I want to execute only on the Firefox or WebKit. So how it is possible? So to execute the test on the specific browser, we need to slightly customize the command. So Control C. Now, just observe here, npx playwright test and homepage test.spec.js. So now here, by using this command, I'm executing my test on 3 browsers. By default, it will execute on 3 browsers parallelly. But I want to execute the test only on the Chromium browser. Only one browser I want to execute. Okay. So then what we can do is we need to add one parameter here, homepage test.spec.js, and here -project -project equal to Chromium, -project equal to Chromium. So when you specify this -project equal to Chromium, so my test will be executed only on Chromium browser. So now press enter. So this is executing on only Chromium browser. Now you can see one time only it is executed. One test is executed only on one browser, right? So if you want to see the report once again, you can say npx playwright show -report. So now we can see one test is executed only on one browser, that is Chromium browser. Okay. So like this, we can execute the test in whichever browser you want just by specifying the command. So let me just put all the commands here. So to run all the tests which are there in the test folder, the command is what? npx playwright test. So this will execute all the tests on all browsers by default in headless mode. So this is the command. Okay. So test. So it is just a test. It's not test. So npx playwright test. So this particular command runs all the tests on all browsers in headless mode. And the same command, npx playwright test. If you want to execute specific test case, here we have to specify the test case name. Let us say MyTest.spec.js. So this command will run specific test case file. So whichever you created under test folder, only that will execute. So you need to just specify the name of the test. So npx playwright test and specify the name of the test, and this will exactly runs the specific file. This is one command. And if you want to execute the test on specific browser, you need to write this command npx playwright test. And which test you want to execute? I want to execute MyTest1.spec.js. And which browser you want to execute, you can specify that option. -project equal to Chromium, or project equal to Firefox, or project equal to WebKit. You can specify whatever you want. So this command runs the test on specific browser. So these are the three options so far we have seen. So now we want to execute our test in headed mode. So by default, all the tests will be executed on the headless mode. So we are not able to see the UI, right? So if you want to execute our test in headed mode, so then what we can do is we can execute the same command. So npx playwright test, npx playwright test. And if you want to execute the test in headless mode, headed mode, and which test you want to execute? I want to execute my homepage test. So I want to execute my homepage test. So just specify that name, homepage test.spec.js. So this particular file I'll execute. If I execute this command, so by default, all three browsers will be executed. Same test will be executed on three browsers. So 3 are got passed. Now I will just try to customize this command. See, observe here. npx playwright test. I want to execute this particular test on specific browser. On which browser you want to execute? I want to execute Chromium browser. So I can say -project equal to Chromium. And also I want to execute this test in headed mode. So by default, it is executed in headless mode. We can't say any UI, but I want to execute the same test on headed mode. So you can say -headed. This is another option which we have to provide, -headed. So this command will execute my test on Chromium browser, one single browser in headed mode. Okay. Now when I execute this, enter. Now you observe it is launching my Chromium browser and it is done validation and one test is got passed. So this is how we can achieve the headed mode execution. So we have seen how to run all the tests in the test folder. By default, if I give this command, so this will run all the tests which are available in the folder. And the next command which we have seen, if you want to run specific file, we can just specify the file name and that will execute on three browsers again. And again, if you want to execute the test on specific browser, you can just specify -project equal to Chromium. This will run test on the particular browser. And again, one more command we have learned. So npx playwright test. So I want to execute MyTest.spec.file. So this file I want to execute spec.js file on particular Chrome browser. So Chromium browser, I say -project equal to Chromium. On one single test I want to execute on Chromium browser in headed mode. So I can have -headed. So this option will make our test headed mode. Okay. And one more option. Suppose if you want to run your test in the debug mode, if you want to run each and every step one by one, step-by-step execution, if you want to do, then you can run the test in the debug mode. So for that, what you need to do is you need to just Control-C, exit, and the same command, npx playwright test, homepage test.spec.js. So this is the file I'm going to execute on the Chromium browser in headed mode, and in the debug mode also I want to add, so that I can see each and every step. So if you want to run this in the debug mode, you can say space -debug, -debug. So when I execute this, enter. Now you can observe here, as soon as you run your test, by default, the browser just open, it gets stopped here. And also it will automatically open one more new window called Playwright Inspector. Okay, Playwright Inspector. Here you were able to see same script, whatever you have created. And it is gets stopped at line number 5. Here it gets stopped. You can just notice here. So it is just launched my browser and it is still not open any application. It is waiting at the line number 5. So from here, we can go step-by-step execution. So to go step-by-step execution, what we can do is we can simply use this option. So this is for running the entire code. This is for pausing, and this is for executing the next step over. So when you press this key or press F10, your functional key, it will go to the next step. Now observe here what is happening. When you click on this, now you can see line number 5 is got executed. Now it go to the next step. It is got printed the title also, and then it go to the next step. And again, click on this button, then it go to next step. And then close, and then one more step. Finally, the close. So here we got the title of the web page and URL of the web page in the console window. So one test is successfully executed. This is the title is not properly printed, you can see, and URL is got printed. So why title is not printed here? Because we haven't specified the await. Let's put await here, okay? Await. Fine. So now let us save the file and then execute one more time. Do this command npx playwright test homepage test.spec.js, and on the Chromium browser I want to execute in the headed mode and also in the debug mode, right? Now again press enter. Now again it turn into debug mode of execution. Now again you will get this window, Playwright Inspector along with this browser. Now we need to go to step-by-step execution. Just click on this button. So reload button. So you can just click on this. This is basically step over button. So you can just go here, title, and then URL, and finally closed. So now we can see you got the page title and also you got the URL. Fine. So this is how we can simply write your Playwright test, and we can execute in multiple ways. So if you want to execute in the debug mode, what we can do is same command npx playwright test, and I want to execute, and you can customize these options according to your requirement. Okay, npx playwright test, and the same test file I want to execute. This is a spec file and .js, and same Chromium browser I want to execute headed mode and the debug mode -debug. So these are all customized options. Okay, you can provide the option whichever based on your requirement. So you can just specify these options. So the default command is one. So npx playwright test. This is the command will actually runs your Playwright test. And if you want to execute this command, by default, it will execute all the tests which are created under the test folder. If you want to execute specific test, you need to provide the test name. Or if you want to run the test on only Chromium browser, so you can specify the project equal to Chromium also. And if you want to run your test on the specific browser and also in the headed mode, you can say additional option called -headed. And if you want to run your test on the Chromium browser in headed mode and debug mode, you can add additional parameter -debug. So all these options are optional. So it depends on your requirement. You can add these options along with this command npx playwright test. Okay, so this is how simply we can create Playwright test in VS Code editor and we can run it. So in the next video, I will show you what are all other commands are available in this page fixture. So currently how many commands we have used in the page? Go to is one command which will open this URL on the browser. And the other one is a title is one command which will return the title of the current web page. And there is another command URL we have used which will return the current URL of the web page. But we are just using it for only printing purpose. But we have not added any validation on this. But to add validations, we have to use expect function. Expect page.toHave title is this one. Expect page.toHave URL is this one. So these are the new commands which we have learned, which are coming from expect. And if you want to close the page, you can simply say page.close. Okay, so this is how we can simply create Playwright test and we can run it in multiple ways. So in the next video, we will see how to interact with the different type of elements, like how we can interact with the input box, how can interact with the buttons and links, right? How can automate the test, what are other commands are available in the page. So that we will see in the next video. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see in the next video.